In this lesson, we are going to be looking at point control and how to maintain it. And this is especially important for anyone who's transitioning into epee from, say, foil, where point control is applied slightly differently than in epee. And this is because you have a lot of fortifying rules associated with your right of way. Now, first things first, point control. In epee, it is vital to have strong, stable, and consistent point control. That is your point finding the target. And the best way to ensure that you maintain that is to make sure that you don't jeopardize it. Now, again, if you're transitioning from foil, we get a little carried away by these wild blade movements where our point travels a lot. Now, there's no real advantage to that in epee. We can be provocative and disruptive. We can create invitations and traps by moving our point around. But if we're just beginning, we want to have a strong foundation for that point control. And that's what Shreesha is going to help me explore in this lesson. So the first thing that we want to note on our point control is movement. When you are fencing in epee, you want to keep your blade about as fixed as possible. You don't want it drifting or floating around. In foil, you can do lots of line changes. In saber, it's the same thing. But in epee, you want to be fairly consistent in where your point's going to be. And when you change it, it has a profound effect on your point control. So first things first, we're going to show how your blade is going to start. So we're going to be on guard, and we are going to position ourselves so that our blade is parallel with the floor. Our arm is going to lead our hand out to the side, and our point is going to cross, so it's going to be right in front of us. This way, if you're looking at it direct, the hand is out to the side and the point is in the center, so the point is always going to threaten the target. This is very effective because it allows you to extend out while keeping your point centered. This is very effective for combining it with lots of binds or opposition touches. It also allows you to invite an attack to the inside of your hand so that you always have a good idea of where that attack is going to be. But at the same time, you're noticing that your point is always going to be in line with the target's outside line. So that means if you miss the outside, you can hit the inside. You're not going to lose much control. So you want to make sure that that is where you're starting. It's very stable. You don't want your point rising too high. You don't want it falling too low. Keep it right in front of you, and that will maintain the strength of your point control as you start. Maintaining point control can be pretty tricky when you're moving, and that's what we're going to look at next. When moving, your body's in a lot of transitions, and that means your blade might be moving a lot with you. Now, you want to keep that movement as small as possible, so we're going to do a few demonstrations of the movement. We're going to stand on guard, and we're going to compare our blade and point positioning as we're moving. So we're going to start with just that little bounce. We're going to be skipping around a little bit. And as you can see, Shreesha's point is moving a fair bit, whereas mine is pretty stable. It's not drifting a lot. And this is because I'm not going to be moving my upper body. I'm just going to be using my lower body. I'm going to keep my arm, my hand nice and stable, and my point's not going to drift. So if I extend, I'm still in the same position, and I can always target the same one. I don't want to raise or drop my hand too much. I want to keep my point right where it is. And this will maintain my point control. The last thing to note about point control is that when you're far away, you don't really need to fixate too much on it because there's no way you're going to hit your opponent. And this is where you get to rest your arm. If you're always in this position, always facing forward, especially if you're new to epee, this is going to be exhausting. Staying in this position all the time, you're not going to last very long. So you want to give yourself some respite, some chances to recover and recuperate. And that's what we're going to look at here. So if we're in the on-guard position, and you're feeling your arm is getting really tired, and as your arm tires and fatigues, you're going to need rest time. Otherwise, your point control is going to suffer. So if we're here, we're moving around, and I need time to rest my arm. I'm going to step back. I can drop my arm just a little bit. As you're seeing, that's coming from my elbow. It's not coming from my hand. It's not coming from my shoulder. I'm not pulling it back. I'm just dropping it. And this allows me to maintain the point control for when I come back forward. I don't have to change the position of my point anymore. So if I step back again, I can drop my point, but I'm not changing the line. So if I need to relax, I'm in that relaxing position, I want to come forward again, there I am right there. It's very, very helpful, so if you're always very close, you're going to get tired eventually. You need to step back, drop the arm from the elbow, and then bring it back forward. Drop it down, bring it back forward. This way, you're minimizing any issues with your point control. You're able to rest, but you're not jeopardizing your point control and the consistency of your touch. So if I'm on guard, I'm fencing with you, here I am, I'm getting tired, I step back, I drop the point. My arm gets to relax just a little bit, and then it's time to step forward, I'm back into position. Step back, back into position. So very important, if you want to maintain your point control, do not do your exaggerated movements. You don't need to do that. As you get more advanced in your epee, you can apply more technique. You can explore more elaborate movements as invitations and traps. But right now, if your real struggle is just getting your point on the target, you want to reduce the amount of movement coming from your blade. Keep it nice and stable. Isolate all that movement to your legs, your lower body, and let your arm just stabilize the weapon.